Have you ever wondered why the start of a new year feels so powerful and motivating? It's as if the simple act of turning the page to a fresh calendar year injects us with a new lease on life, a renewed sense of purpose. This isn't just a figment of your imagination. It's a psychological phenomenon known as the fresh start effect. This effect is the reason why we feel an intense burst of motivation to chase our goals, especially at the beginning of a new time period. It could be the start of a new week, a new month, or in this case, a new year. Let me share a personal anecdote. A few years ago, I set a New Year's resolution to read at least 2 books each month. Now, I've always been a bookworm, but life has a way of getting in the way of our hobbies. Yet, with the arrival of the new year, I felt this incredible surge of motivation. I was determined to make this resolution a reality. It was as though the new year had given me a clean slate, a new beginning, and I was ready to make the most of it. What's interesting is that this fresh start effect isn't just about setting goals. It's about taking action towards achieving them. The beginning of a new time period, like a new year, feels like a reset button. It gives us the chance to leave behind our past failures and shortcomings, to focus on the possibilities that lie ahead. So, how can we harness this psychological effect for self-improvement? It's about recognizing these fresh starts as opportunities for change and growth. It's about taking that burst of New Year motivation and channeling it into consistent, deliberate action. It's about understanding that every new beginning holds the power to transform our lives, if only we seize the chance. It's fascinating, isn't it? The simple turn of a calendar page can bring such a surge of motivation. It's a reminder that we always have the opportunity to start anew, to become better versions of ourselves. And that, my friends, is the true power of new beginnings. But how often have you found that this New Year motivation fades as the weeks roll on? Indeed, the glow of a fresh start can be intoxicating. However, we often stumble into pitfalls that can derail our New Year's resolutions, leaving us feeling defeated and demotivated. One common pitfall is setting vague goals. For instance, we might say, I want to get fit this year, or I want to read more. But what does fit or more really mean? Without a specific target, it's easy to lose sight of what we're working towards and even easier to feel like we're not making progress. Another trap we often fall into is trying to change too many habits at once. It's like trying to juggle a dozen balls at once. Inevitably, some will fall. I remember one New Year I made a list of 10 resolutions. From learning a new language to running a marathon, I wanted to do it all. I was brimming with enthusiasm and ready to take on the world. But by February, I was overwhelmed, and by March, I had given up on most of them. In my ambition to transform every aspect of my life, I had set myself up for failure. That's not to say that ambition is a bad thing. On the contrary, it's admirable and necessary for growth. The problem arises when we bite off more than we can chew, and our ambition turns into an unmanageable burden. We also tend to neglect the importance of planning. We set grand goals but overlook the steps needed to achieve them. It's like wanting to build a house but only focusing on the final structure, ignoring the need for a solid foundation and meticulously planned construction. Change is a process, not a single event. It requires patience, persistence, and most importantly, a well-thought-out plan. So as powerful as the New Year motivation can be, it's clear that there are certain traps we need to avoid. After all, a resolution is only as good as the strategy behind it. So, what's the secret to maintaining that New Year motivation all year round? Well, let's unmask this mystery together. First off, let's talk about setting specific, achievable goals. Picture this. It's the first week of the new year, and you're brimming with energy to learn a new language. Instead of vaguely stating, I want to learn Spanish, try saying, I will learn 10 Spanish phrases each week. This sets a concrete, achievable target, making your goal less daunting and more manageable. Now, on to tracking progress. Imagine you're working on your fitness. Instead of vaguely hoping to get fit, set specific benchmarks. Maybe it's going to the gym 3 times a week or running a mile in under 10 minutes. Then, keep a record. It's fulfilling to see your progress in black and white, and it's a powerful motivator to keep pushing forward. Next up, the power of incorporating new habits into existing routines. Let's say you're aiming to read more. Instead of setting aside an hour each day, something that can be quite challenging, why not read during breakfast or just before bed? By integrating the new habit into your existing routine, it becomes less of a chore and more of a natural part of your day. Now let's bring this all to life with a personal anecdote. A couple of years ago, I decided I wanted to meditate daily. I started with just 5 minutes a day, right after brushing my teeth in the morning. It was a small, achievable goal, and it was easy to track my progress. Plus, by tying it to an existing routine, it quickly became a natural part of my day. Now I can't imagine starting my day without those precious moments of peace. Remember, these strategies aren't just for the new year, they're for life. It's about creating sustainable habits that can fuel your motivation and drive your success, not just in January, but all year round. With the right strategies, we can keep that New Year motivation burning bright all year long. But what if we could harness this motivation even beyond the new year? Imagine if we could bottle up that fresh start energy we feel on January 1st and uncork it whenever we need a boost. The good news? We can, and it's all about a little concept called micro new beginnings. Here's the idea. Instead of putting all our hopes into one big annual reset, we treat each day, each week, each month as a fresh start. It's like having a mini New Year's Day every morning when you wake up. This mindset shift can keep your motivation high all year round, turning the ordinary into opportunities. Let me share a personal story to illustrate this point. A few years back, I found myself in a rut. I'd made grand New Year's resolutions, but by the time February rolled around, my motivation was dwindling. I felt stuck, like I was just going through the motions. Then I stumbled across the concept of micro new beginnings. I started treating each new day as a fresh start, a chance to reset and refocus. If I had a bad day, I didn't let it bleed into the next. I woke up with the mindset that today was a new day, a new opportunity. And suddenly I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I was more resilient, more positive, and more motivated than ever before. This shift in perspective was transformative. It wasn't about waiting for the new year to make big changes. It was about recognizing that every day is a chance to take a step closer to my goals. It was a simple shift, but it had a profound impact. And it's a shift that anyone can make. So don't just wait for the new year to find your motivation. Embrace the concept of micro new beginnings. Turn every day into an opportunity. Remember, every day is a new beginning and an opportunity to take a step closer to our goals. So what's the one thing that can make or break our journey to self-improvement? The answer, my friends, is perseverance. It's the quiet force within us that pushes us to keep going, even when the going gets tough. It's the fuel that drives us forward, the unwavering belief that we can overcome whatever challenges we face. Let me share a personal story to illustrate this. A few years ago, I decided to run a marathon. I was in decent shape, but I'd never run more than a few miles at a time. The thought of running 26.2 miles was daunting, to say the least, but I was determined. I trained diligently, day in and day out, pushing myself to run a little bit further each time. The day of the marathon arrived. I was nervous, but I felt prepared. I started off strong, keeping a steady pace. But around mile 18, I hit a wall. My legs felt like lead, my breath was ragged, and every step was a struggle. But I thought about all the hard work I'd put in, all the early mornings and late nights. I thought about the finish line, waiting for me just a few miles away, and I kept going. When I finally crossed that finish line, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. I'd done it. I'd run a marathon. It wasn't easy, but I'd persevered. I'd pushed myself beyond what I thought was possible, and I'd come out the other side stronger and more determined than ever. And that's the power of perseverance. It's not about never failing or never facing obstacles. It's about getting back up when we fall, about pushing through the tough times and coming out the other side stronger. It's about realizing that the only real failure is giving up. So remember this when you're facing a challenge or working towards a goal. Don't get discouraged if the journey is longer or harder than you expected. Keep going, keep pushing, keep persevering. After all, the journey to self-improvement isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And with perseverance, we can reach the finish line, no matter how far off it may seem.